Hello, this is Ashy. Today I have with me Wa,
Hello.
and I also have Des with me again today.
Ah, shit, I'm back.
So,
Isn't that
last
my line?
is that your line?
It might be my line.
That's your line.
Shit, you're back. No,
Shit,
you
I'm
fool.
back.
It's my line. So last
Anyway,
week we did a brief overview on core classes, and this week I want to do the same thing but for the base classes. So, the class at the top of the list will be the alchemist class.
I'm a fan of the Alchemist. The Alchemist can do anything. You want to be melee, you go Beast Morph Vivisection. If you want to throw bombs, you go Grenadier. If you want to make sticky, concentrated poisons, you can make your rogue turn something's stats to non-existent. And they have celestial poisons, which means the poison works on demons and undead, which is kind of fucked up when you think about it. But Alchemist, I recommend them.
Yeah, was a bit of a alchemist stan. I started being a Slayer stan. And out of the box, I like to think of them as a bit of a skirmisher, because they've got medium BAB and a D8 hit die. They can be quite a bit more easily, as Waz gone through a couple examples. Their infusions allow them to even flex into trying to be a bit of a support, with their up to 6th level formulae.
If you're going to do the extract support thing, you need to dedicate a discovery to them. And after that point, you do need to go into more discoveries, like the ability, or use the spell, like to be able to inject one into someone with a touch, or have the like clockwork Sturge familiar that can hold a potion or an extract in it and inject that through its proboscis.
That's
So if you go the support route, you need to put a lot more into it, so you get a lot more pigeonholed into support. They're a lot more effective, I think, as being something that's selfish,
I agree.
really.
Granted, all you need to be a potion dispenser is picking up one discovery.
Right, but if you want to be good at it, you
You
need to go
gotta,
and start supporting it.
you gotta go a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's also the fact that once you get the ability to fuck around with elixirs, those don't have the same issue. And you can just quick craft potions anyway. Like
So,
you can churn out potions pretty quickly.
can we talk about this mutagen? Unless you
Oh yeah,
choose to be
mutagen.
stronger, more dexterous, or more healthy.
More smarter with the cognatigen. By the way,
Cognotogen.
Alchemist multi-classes really well with Barbarian.
It kinda will. Stacking buffs.
Yep, morale bonus and alchemical bonus. What? You're level 2 and you want some +8s? Multi-class.
Let's also mention they've got respectable skill points, and they're an int-based scaling class.
That's true.
So they can also be kind of skill monkeys. Probably not quite to the level of Bard, which gets just a bunch of free stuff, or Rogue, which gets all the skills and all the skill points, but still respectable.
You could definitely pretend to be a rogue, though, if you go like Crit Breaker or something. Is Crit
Or
Breaker an Alchemist archetype? I'm pretty
it
sure
is,
it is.
yes.
Okay. It's like, which is that a rogue archetype? I don't think it is. Yeah,
It's
go Crit. If you want to pretend to be a rogue, you've got Crit Breaker and like I said, you've got Vivisectionist. Yes, you trade your bombs out for sneak attack. On the other hand, you might just really want to get stuck in and be a giant wall of meat.
your
I
bombs
recall a
are
build I had that used like Heart of the Fields and a bunch of stuff like Lingering Spirit to basically give them a negative hit point bar, which went down to about 200. So you've got a full hit bar, you hit 0, and then you get a bit stronger with the Deathless Initiate, Deathless Zealot, and Deathless Master style stuff with Die Hard. 0 hit points, so you're not dead, you're just angry.
yeah. There's also where you multi-class a little bit of barbarian for more constitution, more hit
True.
points,
And Lingering
more
Spirit
strength.
with a Celestial Totem will heal you an insane amount. Because that also kicks in at below 0 hit points and just starts healing you.
It do.
I like Alchemist.
He likes alchemists.
They are like the treasure map in Magic the Gathering. They're jank glue. They are absolutely the Jack Glue class.
Don't tell while they're low tier. You won't take it well.
Yeah, but we all know tier lists are just made by a bunch of sweaty fucking nerds who don't know what they're talking about. And I can say that with absolute certainty because I am the sweatiest of nerds. Anyway, moving on. We've got a lot of classes to cover.
We do. Like the Cavalier. Which, kind of next in this alphabetical list, they kind of represent a mounted knight. They're similar to the fighter with a full BAB, the D10 hit die, or Alliance and armor.
I really don't know much about them other than challenge is good and will make you hit like a truck. Other than that, I have no fucking clue at all.
Well, their challenge, their banner, and their teamwork feats kind of almost bring them towards like the paladin sort of group hug styles. You know, because paladins are walking
that's
auras.
true. But it's also a lot of the time it can be a pain in the ass to really work in tandem with a dude on a big fat horse. Yeah, when it comes to positioning and getting around and actually following the guy, big horse, it can get in the way a little bit.
It can also be a little awkward in dungeons if dungeons are built around 5-foot wide creatures.
Is this where we talk about the mammoth rider with just a herd of mammoths?
No, we talk
And how
about
you're
Mammoth
never
Rider.
getting it into a dungeon?
We'll talk about Mammoth Rider one day when we cover that as a prestige class.
A decade down the line because there's so many goddamn prestiges and most of them are garbage.
Maybe we'll talk about the Muma kill at the same time, because you know that's going to happen.
It's gonna happen. So how many mammoths are you bringing as animal companions? I think we got up to about 16 at last count. Yes, they're colossal creatures. No, they're not fitting inside a dungeon. It's a funny build, but it's a bad build. Because it ain't going anywhere.
It's funny. It's bad.
It's funny and just don't work. Should try it at some point. Anyway. Yeah, Cavalier is a big horse boy. It hits things really hard.
It does have some archetypes that get rid of the mount to make it a little more dungeon friendly.
It's a samurai, isn't there?
Samurai also
That's a
gets a mount.
separate class.
It's also a different class. We'll
Wait,
cover it another time.
is it?
Yes, Samurai's an entirely
it was-
different class. They have
It's
similar...
like the ninja and how it's an alternate class to rogue, even though it's basically just a rogue.
No.
Yes.
I could have sworn there was a cavalier thing that was just a cavalier without a horse, but it was also weeb as hell.
That's very possible, but samurai is a class.
It very well might be.
I've got to go to the SRD now. God damn it, you guys. You should just agree with me.
No.
PF1E Cavalier. Yeah, I'm holding this entire video up now to go look for this.
Absolutely.
It's okay, it'll get edited out.
Saurian Champion, Sister in Arms. What the fuck is a Sister in Arms? I don't even look. Oh, hey, Green Knight's in here.
Yeah, Green Knight is a Cavalier archetype, and I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, Green Knight's pretty funny.
But yeah,
Ghost Rider. Hold on. Ghost Rider.
Samurai is an alternate class. It's an alternate version of the Cavalier, just like Ninja's an alternate version of the Rogue
Okay.
and Anti-Paladin.
So I'm mostly right. You should have just said I'm mostly right. I'm 90% right. What the fuck is a Ghost Rider?
Oh, they're like a Cavalier, but their mount is a ghost, kind of. In that,
Okay.
like, they can spawn it like a, Think if Spiritualist and Cavalier had a baby. That's basically Ghost Rider.
I don't want to.
You're
I
welcome.
don't want to. I hate Spiritualist.
One day we
Okay,
get to
anyway,
talk
let's move on. I'm
this.
done reading this. It's kind of shit. I don't care about it.
Wow. Opinions formed real quick.
Yeah, I glazed over it. I went, garbage.
Yeah, Cavalier's kind of cool. Anyways. The Gunslinger. D10 hit die. Full BAB again. And, like their namesake, you might be surprised to hear, they're built around firearms.
Some things to note about guns, Slinger. Bolt Ace is actually really good. You effectively just swap your gun out for a crossbow. You can do things with that. The other thing is, there's still a full BAB D10 Marshal. They can pick up a melee weapon and beat the shit out of something.
I mean, they can if you want.
I mean, we've seen them. I mean, Base had a decent go with that pike, with that boarding pike.
His hit was kind of
Hey,
low,
but-
though. He was mostly just lucky.
They're not defenseless if something gets up in your grill.
You're right.
Okay, cool. As long as we can establish that.
You also get the pistol whip ability, which I believe makes the pistol double as like a mace. So
It's a D10. It's a great club.
even better.
I think it's a D10 if it's two-handed. Granted,
If you're not a rifle master, what are you doing?
being a cowboy
Playing a
or
real-
going
Yeah, going in
pistolero.
with the big iron on your hip.
I could be a pickaroo too, I guess. Is this where we go side into Savage Technologist and talk about the... No, let's not talk about the
Not
gun
yet.
barbarian
We'll talk about
yet.
Savage Technologies in its own video.
That's an archetype.
It's Gangplank.
But yeah, firearms. They have their own specific rule set. But
They
For the
do
purpose
have
of
a
this video-
specific rule set.
they
And the
target-
entire region that was Magitech Cowboys in Pathfinder got shit canned because Sean K. Reynolds didn't like the company at large, picked a different gun rule set to his. Because he's kind of a bitch that way.
Well, has opinions.
I do.
He has lots of opinions.
This is why we're never getting sponsored.
Absolutely. They target touch AC within the first increment, which means they can get around any armor, natural armor. So,
Oh yeah, if you're within make-out range and you shoot them, you are hitting, and they are going to feel it.
especially if they happen to be a low dexterity big old dragon,
Yeah.
they feel pretty good about them scales until you start bypassing them entirely.
And most firearms have a ×4 crit multiplier, so if you actually manage to land a crit, you have probably just won that fight.
Very possibly. The Inquisitor. I think it would be another skirmisher. It's a half caster. It's got D8 hit die. It's got medium BAB. Unlike the Bard, they're built around being aggressive by their own merits, and they're kind of considered masters of lore, kind of like Bards, except that they're specifically engineered around identifying creatures and their weaknesses. So they can
On
kind of
top
come out
of
to
that-
be respectable skill monkeys.
I
Funnily
mean, on
enough.
top of that, their primary ability is to just apply Bane to whatever the hell they're wielding.
No, that's judgments that you're thinking of as the primary ability. They get Bane later. But yeah, they get to apply Bane to just whatever the hell they're fighting.
I thought Bane was their basic ability.
No, Judgment is.
Oh.
They basically get to choose from a list of buffs to apply to themselves. And then they take their stats and go beat something with their stats.
You know what, fair enough. I don't think I've actually ever played an Inquisitor. There's been a lot of
Cool.
built characters where thinking about playing one, but I've always decided to go something else.
I mean, there's like 40 billion classes out there and a very limited number of games you can go through in your life.
Invest in Lich Sim immediately.
I'll be honest, I was in basically 6 games a week at one point. I tried to cram as many as I could in, and it nearly killed me.
Moral of the story, don't try and play 6 games at the same time.
Mm-mm.
It's terrible for you, and it can be miserable for somebody else.
And if you're not going to take that advice, then at least go for 7. Don't be a quitter.
All or nothing, baby.
Okay.
That's
Shoot,
also
I might-
terrible fucking advice.
I might need to up my game.
I mean, I did suggest you run 2 campaigns.
That's a route to burnout. I
Yes,
can
it
do it. It's a route to burnout.
is. Anyway,
The Magus! It's
Ooh.
kind of like an Inquisitor. They're arcane. They're also a half-caster. They also have a D8 hit die. They also have medium BAB. And they're also designed around being aggressive and entering the fray.
They have some interesting abilities, like being able to slap something with a spell, or casting something's face while brawling with a sword.
Yes.
Honestly, if you're gonna play a Magus, please don't forget about spell combat. Spell strike is nice, but spell combat is where it's at.
Yeah, lets you rapidly get off your spells while you're engaged in melee.
Yeah. Stab a bitch with your sword while you blast a ray of enfeeblement across the battlefield to help out your other buddy.
Honestly, I have played Magus before, and I'm fairly sure I was ignoring that bit of versatility and, ability to affect the battlefield with spells while also fighting something, and I think it made me a pretty shit Magus.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of Maguses out there like to go with the intensified shocking grasp, and they just keep smacking things with their lightning sword, forgetting that they can absolutely do other things.
Yeah, and then you come up against something that's lightning immune and have this saddest cry wank.
Yeah.
Not naming any names.
I know exactly who you're talking about. I've seen the art of the character. And I remember the salt regarding it.
It was pretty fucking salty, but it was very funny.
Maybe.
I mean, I laughed.
For you Magus players out there, should your DM ever decide to just field demons, and more demons, remember that the spell Snowball is on your spell list. And that there is a version of Snowball, and that's the one you want. It's Conjuration, and doesn't allow for spell resistance.
True, there is two versions of it. One is objectively better than the other.
That might help you out a little bit. You can't spell strike with it, but it might help you out a little bit.
But you can spell combat with it.
You can absolutely spell combat with it.
I think what we're getting at is demons are a bit of a roadblock for the average Magus.
They kinda are. If they are relying on the intensified shocking grasp, possibly intensified spell storing weapon shocking grasp to just drop 20d6s on something's head, but all 20d6 happens to be negated via immunity.
Yeah. Alright. We're not actually touching on the archetypes and the other shit like Myrmidon that's a full plate one, are we?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
Also, the regular
Good.
Magus gets up to full plate. I plan to do a
Really?
deeper dive on each of these classes later. And then start covering their archetypes.
Yeah. Content for the next actual 100 years.
Yep. That's why I need to invest in Lichdom.
It's the eternal YouTuber. Pathfinder 20th edition is out and we're still talking about this fucking game.
Hell yeah!
Probably still going to be the best one.
It depends. We might get a
Yeah.
surprise.
No.
Oh,
it
really?
won't
You like Pathfinder 2nd Edition?
be. We hate Pathfinder 2nd edition in this house.
I have trauma.
Same. I played a level 1 to 18 campaign as a fucking druid. What's up next?
The Amdira.
The class that none of us have played.
Which one's that?
Oh, it's the
Amdira.
one that has a D8 hit die. It's also medium BAB. It's also a half-caster, and it's much more like the Bard. It comes with a variety of party-wide buffs, and has a bit more support.
Pathfinder. I was
It's-
making character to play one of those campaigns, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty fucking sure Jack actually came out instead of this. Oh, this is a lot of
think so,
text. I
yeah.
don't want to read this.
It has a
I don't
spell
care
list.
enough.
It's a hybrid cleric and inquisitor. It gives a
Here
respectable
is
number of
Eliza.
skills. It's a charisma caster, so it's unlikely to be a skill monkey.
Call it invocation.
Yes.
Interesting. That's some warlock words right there.
Yeah, those are some warlock words right there. So essentially, I like to think of them as kind of like if Inquisitor and Bard got together, had a few too many drinks, and also invited a paladin for some reason.
What a fucked up child that is.
So, like, it has area buffs like a bard, but those area buffs look a lot like Inquisitor buffs with, like, reduced potency. And they also have some, like, random things in there that look like lay on hands. So, like, they're kind of like a mix of a bunch of classes. They're probably good, but they seem very support-oriented from my first view. They do have a decent spell list. Up to 6 level spells, and because it's pulling from Inquisitor and Cleric, I mean, Cleric spell list isn't bad.
No.
And it's just getting options from Inquisitor as well.
So let's have a look at some of these auras. They kick in at level 7. The Destruction Aura. The Omdura's allies are filled with Divine Wrath, gaining a +1 Sacred bonus on weapon damage rolls. This bonus increases 1 for every 3 class levels the Omdura has.
What was it? What was it? 3.5? The
Hold
Warden?
on. Wait. Pause. This says for every 3... I hope this says... Okay, it says 3 class levels. It is referring to Omdura. I was going to start reading that as basically hit dice. It says
No,
3 class...
That's not
What
hit dice.
class levels? Whose classes? Which classes?
Sit down, Wall. If it wanted you to flex into it and get your full hit dice benefit, it would use the words HD, and you know it. Chill out.
I got a little bit excited. I am a little bit warm. But, yeah, fair enough. Let's go for another one. The Omdura radiates a healing light, granting fast healing 1. This causes the Omdura's allies to recover 1 hit point each round up to their maximum hit points. It increases by 1 for every 3 class levels, so it's every 3 class levels of scaling. With a base of 1. Wow, once again, you got something that pairs really well with a Celestial Totem on a Rager.
I believe that depends purely on wording, but I have to look at and do it deeper on it if how fast healing works with Celestial Totem.
I thought fast healing was how it worked, is you heal.
Fast healing isn't necessarily how it works. It looks at, like, heal effects.
Well, it's called fast healing, which heals. Right?
I think I recall something being in the wording. I have to look into it deeper, though. Regardless, that's not terribly important.
Anyway.
So, how do you feel about the Oracle?
I like the Oracle because they can do whatever the fuck. Like, you go an Oracle of War, you're pretty decent in melee. I'm pretty sure there's one of those oracles that every day you can decide if you're a rogue, a fighter, or a wizard.
I think that's Shaman you're thinking of.
Really? Oh. Oracles are pretty good, though. Especially, they have a curse. But as you level up, this curse becomes a benefit as well. Like, the one that makes you start basically blind. It will give you, like, blind sense out to 60 feet or something. Shit like that.
It's basically, it is to the cleric what a sorcerer is to a wizard. It's spontaneous and divine. It gets cast up to like 9th level, and you build your character around choices you make at level 1. And mystery is kind of like a bloodline, and the curse is also kind of like a bloodline. So,
and you can get dual cursed Oracle, and you can start stacking a couple of them.
If you wanted to.
You can be the most cursed motherfucker in Galarian.
I feel like dual curse is actually a little bit it's a little worse than cross-blooded, to be honest. Because you get generally just less from your curses than you do from like a bloodline.
I mean, that's true, but if you do some Googling on it, there is some builds and some jank you can do with dual curse, because the bits that you want out of the curses aren't necessarily the capstone of the curse. They're the midpoint that you can qualify for both.
Oh yeah, I believe you. Now,
Or if you...
Oracles, they also share the cleric's D8 hit die medium BAB, rather than what the sorcerers get. And, coming from the cleric spell list, they can do pretty much anything that a cleric would want to do. If they happen to know the spells, they can absolutely waltz up into the fray. Which is a thing you don't want to do if you forget with a sorcerer, usually. Oracles can be monsters.
Yeah, they are pretty good, and there is some silly things you can do with them.
Absolutely.
I mean, the one I played was a Oracle of Battle with a Meteor Hammer. So I was making good use of like reach and some combat maneuvers.
Combat maneuvers on a medium BAB. You know what? Fair enough. If it works, it works.
I mean, you can get it to work.
Fair enough.
Are we on Witch yet?
Not yet, no. The shifter's next.
Well, anyway, witches don't exist. Where are we? What are we doing? What are we looking at next?
So,
The shifter.
Ah, the furry.
It's like a druid. If a druid had full BAB and a D10 hit dice, and it sacrificed all of its spells.
Yeah, pretty much.
For a less versatile transformation, too.
It does have a greater focus on its transformations, though. It has a greater focus on wild shape, and it does get some. I'm gonna use the term weird. It gets chimeric aspects where it basically starts like merging aspects from different wild shapes into one. At least out of the box.
I mean, doesn't that allow you to get a more diverse set of abilities? Like, you can get your scent, you can get your grab, you can get your rake. You know,
I mean,
there's things you
kinda.
typically find on your big creatures.
The problem with shifter is it has a kind of like a set of animals. At level 1, you pick one. At level 5, you get a second animal. At level
Sure.
It loses a lot of its versatility, whereas like a druid's wild shape is just, yeah, I'm just gonna pick this.
Is it in the list? Yeah.
I suppose there is that point. It's like, I'm going to wild shape, and, well, I know what a dinosaur is.
Yeah.
Is there a dinosaur shifter?
There is a Deinonychus form, I believe.
Yes.
It is
I
one
mean
of the
a
better
real
ones,
dinosaur.
I believe.
I mean like a real dinosaur.
No.
Like a T-Rex.
No,
A
there's no
ferret.
T-Rex.
Or an Anki.
No, I don't think there's an Anki. I don't think they have form of the Anki. They are
Okay,
a bit
I
more
guess-
limited.
I guess we're gonna have to just go and find one of the one of the were creatures then. Be a were ankylosaurus.
Ah,
Fuck shifter.
yes.
God, there was some weird shit in Iron Gods.
Become Anki. Now be superior.
Just become a better creature overall.
Alright, so back to the shifter. They are kind of limited. They're frontline, but they've hit druid proficiencies. The druid
I mean, if
proficiencies
you-
aren't the worst, but
If you're a shifter, aren't you going tooth and claw anyway? Aren't
Probably.
you really wanting to rend?
but you're also limited to like fur armor because you're not wearing any metal armors.
Stoneplate.
You could get stoneblade if you go and get heavy armor proficiency. You could wear stoneblade.
I mean, here's the thing. There's so many special materials in that special material list that you can get around these weird restrictions anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you've got bullet plates, you've got bones, various stones.
Bullet,
Those
stone,
restrictions
dragon.
aren't much of a restriction anymore.
Honestly, the restriction is mainly just level 1.
Yeah, pretty much.
It is kind of a level 1 problem. But it does mean that you want a good armor, you have to be paying a premium for it. And
I mean,
if it has to be crafted,
yeah, but you're still sort of in the issue of that's still druid problems.
true.
For the endpoint,
But-
if you're playing a druid, you're generally encountering that issue as well.
Sure, but druids being 9th level casters and living in their wild shape, care a little bit less.
I mean, again, then you've got the enchantments for having your armor retain its, shift into barding.
Yeah, wild enchantment.
Yeah. So again, if you're playing a druid, you're probably encountering this issue at some point in the mid game because you're going to want your enchanted armor to remain active in your wild shape.
Yeah, probably definitely need that for a shifter once you start wild shaping.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
hey buddy, you're gonna be on that front line.
I mean, a druid should be able to go from I want to brawl now, and go brawl.
Definitely cool.
Halcyon druid is a bit of a different beast, but you're playing a different fucking class altogether there. Really?
Truth. So, let's slide on down to Summoner. The baseline Summoner, not the Unchained. That'll be a different video.
Unchained Summoner, the nerfed one. Yeah,
Yeah,
the Summoner Eidolons are monstrous.
It
They're
can
some
be.
of the most powerful things in D&D, in Pathfinder, if you fucking say D&D.
If you know what you're
Some of the
doing.
most powerful things in Pathfinder, if you build it correctly. It just becomes a giant pile of blendy, rendy hit points.
It is a half-caster, and as I understand it, many DMs fear it. Not for the subpar spell list, that's full of support spells. Because of that Eidolon, yeah. Because it can be a powerhouse. The Summoner
And
itself
then
is a D8 hit die, medium BAB class. Could potentially
yeah,
interact
the Summoner itself just basically becomes a hit point battery for the Eidolon at that point.
And hey, should your Eidolon die, the default Summoner has this summon monster ability that's pretty great. Which gives you a access to a pretty nice list of just summons. You know, from the summon monster list, that thing that exists. And hey, if your Eidolon happens to not be useful in a certain situation, because you say you're fighting like a swarm, and your Eidolon has no swarm tech, you could send it away and summon something that does. You know, that can cast
Like an
lightning
Azata.
bolt or something.
One of the big things that DMs generally fear about the Summoner is them wanting to be a Synthesis Summoner. The Synthesis Summoner gets their regular level 20 capstone as a basic starting ability, which allows them to effectively wear the Eidolon like a suit of armor. So you get the Eidolon's physical stats, which are probably very high, but you get the benefit of your spellcasting and your mental stats. I recommend banning it.
I'm not gonna ban it, but I doubt my players are gonna play it.
Yeah, because we all collectively agree it's horseshit. I think.
I don't need to ban it, my players will self-regulate. It's why there's no kineticists. Some people think I should
Look.
ban kineticists, I don't need to. The
Yeah,
players
because
ban
you've all
themselves.
seen me play kineticists and then warp the game around the sheer amount of damage they can just do for no reason.
More on kineticist another time.
Right?
So while I do believe the Summoner Hut for having a mostly support-oriented spell list, there are a few bangers on there. Like, 3rd level Greater Invisibility, which is kinda nice. And Incendiary Cloud, which is kinda just nice.
Unlike, say, the spiritual list that's got an absolutely atrocious spell list.
We're bullying Spiritualist another time, Wah.
But I want to rag on these bad classes.
It'll have its day, Wah, when we talk about occult
Okay.
classes. You can
Fine.
bully Spiritualist all you want then.
Fine.
We'll skip Vampire Hunter and we'll come back to that. So, I guess we'll move on to the Vigilante. It's odd, in my opinion.
I mean, Des is right. It's Batman. You have a character that is the face and is your regular day-to-day salaryman or whatever the fuck he does.
Hey,
and
you're
by night,
legally-
he turns into a superhero.
You're legally distinct
With a mask.
Batman.
I mean, you're basically just the superhero fantasy in
Yeah.
RPGs.
Legally
You're
distinct
basically
Batman.
a DC hero with a secret identity. That's its
So we go-
entire thing.
But legally distinct is important, I think.
Unless you're a magical girl, and then you're Sailor Moon. But you're kind
Oh.
of bad.
I'm gonna talk
Yeah.
about that sometime, it'll be fun. Okay.
God, I'll have to bring up Dawn.
I mean, you could bring it down then.
Yeah, but wasn't
so-
Dawn like 15 classes in a superhero leotard?
Yes,
Okay.
and they all somehow work.
What a weird build. Alright. Baseline, D8 hit die, and medium BAB. Because you're built around that superhero-like fantasy, you have that dual identity. And at level 1, you get to choose your specialization. And that'll kind of determine what role you're trying to sneak into. You can either be full BAB, or you can have something kind of like sneak attack with extra rules. Regardless, they have a flexible slew of abilities that'll make them interesting. And That's if they're appropriate for the game that they're running. They are a little weird.
It's true. You do need to be in a campaign that has a social aspect, a bit of subterfuge. I mean, I suppose you could just always be just this superhero guy and you change face for downtime, but what's the fucking point?
I mean,
At that point, why?
it's kind of like you gotta think about your social talents and if they'll actually come up in the campaign you're in.
Oh yeah, you do have
And-
2 character sheets effectively. You do have effectively 2 characters and you swap in between the 2.
Honestly, Vigilante is definitely a class that benefits from playing a campaign that's going to probably stay in one city or a very limited area.
Yeah, because they might want to be famous in that area, and then the moment you decide to go off to another area, well, there goes some of your abilities and buffs.
Yeah, you need to actually spend like in-game time re-establishing your whole shtick.
And then sacrificing
People have
your
got to know
previous
who this
location.
mysterious. Got to at least have an idea of who this mysterious Avenger is. Else, it functions a bit like a gladiator, really, where you need to have the roar of the fucking crowd to buff you. You've got to have a bit of renown.
You know, kind of.
That's an entire subsystem of gladiatorial performative combat, which is probably another video in itself because it is very strange.
The gladiator rules will require a video to explain. That's for sure. The Witch, the class I'm probably about to be told doesn't exist, is an
Which
arcane
doesn't
class.
exist.
Their spell list is a bit more on the supportive end, but they're still a 9th level spellcaster with prepared spells. They have quite a number of options of effects to build out their abilities with, and that's most of their class features. Being a 9th level arcane caster though, they have a d6 hit die, and they have a slow BAB. They can flex into some other spell options and get a bit out of the support line by choosing particular patrons that are a little bit more aggressive.
One of the big draws of them is that they've got a lot of no save debuffs. They can and will. They will just dumpster something into irrelevancy if you really want to just victimize something.
The big boss has something in the way that's stopping you from getting to him. Like just let the witch be like, nah, screw you.
I mean, sometimes the witch might just have child scent.
Oh, no, not that one.
What?
Put that
We
out.
don't want to talk about the hex child scent where you can sniff out children and then cook people to make delicious cookies?
Yeah. By the way, witches have some weird hexes.
They have some weird hexes.
Aside from the good ones or the useful ones.
I mean, let's be fair. All these classes are supposed to be designed for players to play them, yes, but also to be villains.
Yeah.
Look, if you want to have an evil witch that abducts children by being able to sniff out their little feeties and then go eat them, you can do that. It's just there in the hex list. I don't know why my brain went to sniffing out their little feeties, but
I don't know why either. It was a little bit weird. I didn't want to comment, but it was kind of weird.
Look,
I need an adult.
Look, there's nothing I want to tell you, okay? So, I'm not joking, by the way. This is, I'm on the level.
Yeah.
It's just very funny.
All right. So we'll come back to Problem Child now. Vampire Hunter.
See, the only thing I know about Vampire Hunter is that Crit Roll put a class called Vampire Hunter together for Vin Diesel. That's it. That's all I know.
Well, that was called Blood Hunter, not Vampire Hunter. It was also a better class. It was also not particularly well balanced.
Oh.
I mean, to be fair, Vampire Hunter isn't very well balanced either.
I mean, if you've got a campaign with vampires in it, it's pretty good. If you don't, you're not very good at all.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem with Vampire Hunter. It's kind of like Ranger. If your Ranger was built around hosing undead, and only undead. It's a good level 1 dip with this odd full BAB but D8 hit die combo. And it just happens to give you slightly more than a fire does at level 1. But I can't recommend going full in on this class, unless you know that it's an undead-centric campaign that's potentially full of vampires.
I can explain this quite a bit, though.
Okay.
Vampire Hunter is actually from a crossover book with the anime Vampire Hunter D. So, yeah, it may be a pretty bad class on its own, but if you go by just following that, yeah, okay, it's supposed to be made for an entire thing that is about just vampires and murdering them.
I kinda
Okay.
wish they disrupted its faithfulness just a little bit for the sake of balancing it into the game and making it kinda good. Like,
I mean,
not good, but just kinda good.
when you're describing something as a hunter that does something ultra specific, not a hunter, when you're describing it as a ranger that does something ultra specific, then you've got a fucking problem because rangers are terrible anyway.
Yeah.
They're not the best.
I hope you mentioned how bad rangers were when you did the class video.
Well, you weren't in that one, so you could go watch it and see what I had to say about it, Wall.
Fine.
Resignation.
But yeah. This class, cool in concept, terrible in execution.
Oh yeah, they're also partial casters, with up to 4th level spell slots, from the Inquisitor spell list.
That's so fucking weird. It's full bad but D8 with up to 4th level spells. It's so fucking weird.
It's like a paladin.
I didn't
Or
even
a
mention
ranger.
how it has good reflex and good will save.
What?
It has good reflex and will save.
Okay. I guess that's good for dealing with vampires. You know, I've got a new class that doesn't exist. This one. Which, get out of the fucking doesn't exist room.
You know, I have a lot less problems with this.
Okay, which you exist again. Vampire Hunter, get out of here.
Get in the box.
But it's a real shame because they actually do have some cool abilities. But
I really do.
too limited use or too limited in scope.
I mean, I suppose if you decide to run into the Pathfinder variant of Curse of Strahd.
I mean, it's potentially a one-tap Strahd. Potentially, question mark.
Wait, it can one-tap Strahd? Does he have a vampire just assassinate button?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
hell, if
sweet.
any time it gets a critical, it can just automatically pull out a stake and use it. Spree.
If the target is a vampire, it can slay it immediately. If the target's not a vampire, you put your stake back.
Those hilarious, hey, if your target is not a vampire, I'm pretty sure the average human is not going to enjoy a piece of wood jammed into his chest.
I was gonna say, I mean, you can stake a lot of things and it'll die. You know?
No, only vampires.
Okay. Damn.
Though,
Damn
it
it.
does have more usage against undead generally, but you're still limited to just undead. And you can only stake vampires.
I hate all of this.
Yeah.
I don't like any of this, so, I think that's the last one, right?
That's the bottom of my
Yeah.
list.
Hey, we're done. Freedom.
Any closing thoughts?
I am 2/3 of the way through the Carton of Sangria. Oh, you meant on Pathfinder?
Yeah, on Pathfinder.
No.
Magus, remember your spell combat, guys. It'll
Oh,
save you.
I do. Hey, if you're playing Alchemist, don't be a basic bitch Alchemist. Do something weird. It'll function better if you're doing something weird.
Sounds like some law wisdom.
Hey, same advice with the monk.
Sure. I'm sure you'll have more to say when we get to Unchained Monk. You probably don't mind missing regular Monk.
It depends what I'm doing.
Yeah, I
It
suppose.
depends if your DM allows you to do the many style master.
Oh, you mean that thing that works based on the rules, but doesn't work because the designers didn't like it working? That thing?
Yeah, that thing where you just
Oh.
ignore the designers because they're wrong.
Anyways, if you like what we do here, please consider leaving a like, and if you want more, consider subscribing. Bye.
Also, leave your comments so we know what to do next, and we don't have to leave it up to Ashi, who occasionally has terrible ideas, like spike gauntlets.
Hey, I will stand by the spike gauntlets.
You can, by all means.